Everyone, today we're going to learn to work our salvation out. Therefore, my beloved, just as you have always obeyed me, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who's at work in you all, enabling you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Do all things without murmuring and arguing, so that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God, without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, in which you shine like stars in the world. It's by your holding firmly to the word of life that I can boast on the day of Christ that I did not run for nothing or work for nothing. But even if I am being poured out as a drink offering over the sacrifice and the offering of your faith, I am glad and rejoice with all of you. And in the same way, you also should be glad and rejoice with me. Now, a phrase in this reading that stands out to a lot of people that we latch onto is where he says, work out your salvation. And, that kind of makes us nervous because, well, you can't earn your salvation. You can't work for it. Works are separate from being saved. Well, that's not what he's talking about at all, because he doesn't say work for your salvation. He says work out your salvation. Some of it gets to what we think salvation is. It's not just like this ticket that you keep in your back pocket to let you into heaven after you die. Salvation is more than that. It's a power that enables us to live in a new way right here and right now, as we've been focusing on in this letter about being citizens of heaven on earth. And so what he's telling us is work out the mind of Christ that he just described in that hymn. That's why he says therefore at the beginning. And who's really doing this work? Is it us or is it God? Well, it's both, right? He says work out your salvation because God's at work in you. We always are trying to seek this balance of not just assuming God's going to work everything out in the end. We don't really have to do much. And also not to think, well, it's all on me. It's all on us to make everything right. God is working in us through the Spirit. It's a partnership. That's common language, again, throughout this letter, of us being partners with God and partners with each other. So the opposite of the Christ-like attitude that he's talking about, what gets in the way of us working out our salvation, is grumbling and arguing. Right? There's always something that you can complain about, but is that what you're going to focus on? Now, unfortunately, there are many Christians that it is kind of their approach to life. And we all know that isn't ultimately that helpful. It distracts from what we're meant to do here. Now, he's not talking about having difficult conversations, getting into things that are actually important. The arguing he's talking about is when it's not a fruitful discussion. That's what it means to have one mind or the same mind. It's not that we always agree on everything, but are we willing to work that out and not just grumble about those people? Because nobody likes that. Instead, we're called to shine like stars, right? To shine with joy. We're meant to attract people. Jesus attracted people, and we can do the same if we have his mindset. And we have to work this out, or our work is for nothing, right? Paul is saying, I don't want all my hard work to be in vain. I don't want this to be pointless. Think about how much he's suffered. He's in prison right now. And at the same time, our worth, our joy can't totally be caught up in others and how they respond to our efforts. But we're in this together. We're all working it out together, figuring out what it looks like to have the mind of Christ as the people of Christ.